Before a word is spoken in a scene, before we even let the audience see a face from a character in our edit, the audience has often decided how they feel. That is the power of editing the start of a scene. It's not about something simplistic like how long the first shot should be. It's a set of premeditated decisions about how to control time, space, and emotion from the very first frame of a sequence. So in this episode, I'm going to show you how to design emotion from that very first frame, why scene starts are never neutral, and how to deliberately engineer the audience's emotional state before the story even begins. We're also going to talk through 2 well-used scene starting templates that you can use right now. Most editing advice around scene openings that I heard at the start of my career was, I've got to be honest, painfully shallow. I heard things like, start the scene earlier, don't trim too aggressively, let the first shot breathe. Now, that advice wasn't wrong. It was just useless for me where I was at my skill and kind of learning level. It wasn't dealing with the emotional why of what I was cutting. In my early editing years, I thought a scene start was a technical question. Where does the shot begin? Where does the dialogue start? How soon do I reveal the location? But over time, I realized that those were just surface level questions and that there were much more deeper psychological needs that had to be addressed. It occurred to me that the job of a scene opening was not just orientation, it was also emotional architecture. The first 10 seconds of a scene don't just explain what's happening, they tell the audience how to feel about what's happening by creating emotional context. And once that emotional context is set, everything that follows is filtered through it in the mind of the audience. This is why 2 edits using the same footage can feel completely different. The difference isn't in the amount of coverage or how well we use the software. It's the emotional foundations we make at the start. Now, one of the things I always tell my students is to think of the start of a scene like an emotional tuning fork. Ding! You strike it once, and whatever tone you hit reverberates through the audience's subconscious. So what is that going to be? What do you want it to be? Is it going to be dread, urgency, peace, wonder, mystery, boredom, whatever? That tone and context doesn't just introduce the scene. It moves the viewer into a specific emotional perspective. And once they're there, they interpret everything through that frequency. That's why the order of facts matters in a newspaper article. It's why the opening line of a lawyer's summation in court frames the jury's thinking. It's why the first thing that someone says when you meet them often tells you what type of person they are. Now, our brain doesn't wait for the full picture. It makes a call early and then defends it. And when I realized this, not only did I start to study how many of the legendary editors do this instinctively and deliberately, but I also began to play around with these concepts myself on the timeline. I would often do a thought experiment. For the first 10 seconds of a new scene that I was cutting, I forgot exposition, I forgot coverage and explanation. I would ask myself this one simple but brutal question. What did the audience need to feel right now? Was it calm or was it unsettled? Was it safe or was it on edge? Was it clear or was it confused? Once I answered that, the rest became a lot more obvious. It was then that I could choose the tools to create that feeling. Not software tools, storytelling tools. shot structure, shot duration, pacing, specific types of camera movement, whether to put music into the scene or delay it until a specific moment. This mindset that the emotional destination comes first and everything else works backwards from that helped me overcome that massive problem that we all go through as editors. The path where editing stops being technical and starts being editorial. Now, a common mistake I made was also assuming that the audience always needs orientation. And in documentary, they often don't. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is withhold information. Now, I found this particularly difficult at a very specific moment in my journey as a broadcast editor. I'd started off my career by cutting a lot of the reality TV shows that were around at the time, things like Big Brother, X Factor, Faking It, Secret Millionaire, all that kind of stuff. Short scenes, tabloid-style cutting with very low ambiguity. But when I first made the move over into documentary, I realized that the structure and emotional architecture were completely different. The cutting patterns were much more dramatic, cinematic, and ambiguous, especially at the start of scenes. And I'll be honest, it terrified me because I didn't really understand how to do it. I had to learn how to withhold narrative information to create mystery. And so I practiced starting certain scenes like this. Start in an extreme close-up, hide the geography, delay the context. I realized by studying some of my biggest editing heroes and heroines, like Verna Fields, who cut Jaws, that curiosity is an emotional engine. We're playing around with the amount of disclosure we give to the audience. But of course, the opposite is often true as well. I do the opposite and give full disclosure immediately if the scene required it. Open on a wide shot, establish the location immediately, compress time, and reveal the stakes quicker. Now, neither approach is correct. It's not about that. It's the fact that they're emotional storytelling strategies. We're not just opening a scene, we're engineering how it unfolds in the viewer's subconscious in different and varying ways across the whole film. High-end editing requires the ability to articulate high-end editing language, dear friend. And so I've created something special for you to hang on the wall of your cutting room. It's a periodic table of editing terminology. 50 of the most used creative editing terms in a beautifully designed film poster. You can grab it right now by clicking the link below and heading on over to InsideTheEdit.com. Now, as we all know, there are many ways to start a scene, and of course it depends on what's going on at that point in our film. But let's look at two fundamental scene opening templates. Think deadlines, consequences, action. We need to get the audience into gear immediately. This is a compression of information and stacking of the stakes. Let's talk through a real-world example. The first dialogue lines from our character may be something like this. It's 7:59 a.m. and I'm not even out of bed. If I don't make this phone call in the next 90 seconds, everything I've worked for collapses. So, what's happening here in this short couple of sentences? Well, we get the time, we get the place, we get jeopardy, we get the consequence. And it almost happens in one breath. It's that quick. Now, this has set the tone for the scene by what dialogue we've decided to open with. We can then choose a pacing and shot selection style that reflects that. Visuals, tighter framing, faster cuts, maybe shaky observational camera work. Maybe the music is percussive, minimal, tension building, and probably in a minor key. The start 10 seconds have been crafted with dialogue, picture, and music to create a very specific emotional mood for the audience. And all of them are reinforcing each other. That is us conceiving and building a narrative springboard by retrospectively deciding on the emotional destination first and working backwards with dialogue, picture, and music. We can learn every single piece of editing software in the world, but none of it will help us create that on the timeline. That is the art of editing, and it's these creative decisions that make us valuable as storytellers. Let's try a different template. Now, this is the opposite of urgency. It's not about information, it's about contemplation. Here we may open with symbolism, metaphor, or quiet reflection. We create space. We activate a different part of the brain than the fight or flight of an urgent start. Let's talk through a real-world example of this. This time, the first lines of dialogue could be something like, "I never knew how beautiful getting up at 5 a.m. was. It's magical. It's like I have the whole world to myself." Now, that's a completely different frequency on the emotional tuning fork. The previous one builds an action mindset into the audience's subconscious. This one creates contemplation and requires a different set of shot and music selections to build and layer in the mood. Visuals, longer takes, beautiful dawn light, slow movement, static shots. Maybe the music is ambient, subtle, atmospheric, possibly romantic in tone, and in a major key. So these are two dramatic templates that start a scene in a documentary, drama, online trailer, reality TV, or entertainment show. They're used everywhere in high-end editing. But scenes don't happen in isolation. And so there's another key factor that we have to work out beforehand. Now, one of the best questions we can ask ourselves when designing the narrative roller coaster that is long-form editing is, what was the scene before? Now, this rule is absolutely non-negotiable. We must ask ourselves what emotional state the audience was in at the end of the previous scene. Why? Because if we don't change it, our rhythm and therefore our exciting roller coaster just flatlines. Think of it like changing gears when driving from fifth gear on the motorway to third gear on a high street. We're not trying to match the mood, tone, and pacing of the previous scene. We're trying to do the opposite. Too much of the same tone and the audience's brain switches off. They need to feel something new is happening even before they know what it is. Now let's talk through some real-world examples of this type. Do we have a high-octane ending of the outgoing scene? Well, then let's have a slower start to the incoming scene. Do we have a quiet and reflective previous scene ending? Well, let's have a sharp, kinetic start to the new scene. This is how we reset the nervous system of our viewers. It's not about being clever, it's about being in control of the emotional architecture. Here's a creative analysis tool that you can use straight away. Play only the first 10 seconds of your scene or sequence. Play it again and mute the audio. Ask yourself, what emotion is being activated? Would I keep watching? Is the tone clear or is it ambiguous? Now, this isolates the emotional DNA of the opening and forces us to refine it. In the end, The start of a scene is not just about information, coverage, and story. Yes, those are essential mechanics, but it's also about emotional design and control. Control of emotion, control of tension, control of how we want the audience to feel. We're not just showing them what happens, we're telling them how to feel about it. The first frame is the moment the spell begins. So cast it with precision. Thank you for your kind attention, dear friend. My name's Paddy Bird, and this is Inside the Edit.